Today I want to talk about the power of the mind and how doubt limits us. The thing is, is that we're very conditioned. We're very conditioned to not believe. We're very conditioned to doubt. We're very conditioned to worry and have fear. We're conditioned to need proof for the unseen. But the thing is that actually what all of these things do, when doubt comes in, it really limits us. But the thing is that if we can kind of train our mind to not go into doubt, to actually go into the belief that something is possible, even if what we're noticing is like, okay, but I'm feeling this, I'm visualizing this, but it's still not happening. That's where the doubt creeps in. And that's where actually this kind of unwavering faith and trust that I've spoken a lot about comes in. But the challenging part of it is like, if there are emotions in the mix and we're yearning for something and it's not coming into fruition, that it's easy. I understand why doubt would come in. I understand why we'd go into kind of hopelessness or not believing or all of these things. So it's like, how do we work with the mind where we can kind of confront doubt in a healthy, productive way and still be able to hold on to our faith, even if we are still in what feels like a dark corridor and we don't know where we're going and what's going to happen next, and if the very thing that we're visualizing and longing for is going to come into fruition. So we're going to look at all of these things and see how to work with them. Let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. I just watched the other night a documentary by Joe Dispenza called Source. They were screening it online for free on his website. And if you're not familiar with Joe Dispenza's work, I mean, he really is a master of kind of, I don't even know what the word is, of just shifting our body and our mind. And you know, literally there are miracle stories of people that have been cured from cancer and have been, you know, walked from being in a wheelchair after so many years, or being on oxygen and then being able to take that off and being able to breathe on their own, all of a sudden, like so many amazing stories. But what was very interesting about the documentaries is actually showing the science, the data of what is actually happening in the body when we meditate and we bring ourselves into certain states, certain frequencies, certain brain waves. And you know, what these people's, you know, firsthand experiences were, which you could say really err on the miraculous. So it was a really good example of just the immense, powerful, I'm going to say dormant abilities that we have, because I think we have had so many various abilities as human beings, and they've just been dormant for a very, very long time for various reasons. And so it's always been there, but it's just remembering them, reawakening them, reigniting them. But it's really amazing and actually very moving when you're watching this, and especially how when people come together as a group and meditate as a group and heal as a group, that just the potency of it is remarkable. And so it's a really good example of the power of the mind. And the power of the mind can go either way, right? It can either be really destructive or incredibly beneficial. I really learned this on a physical level when I was a ballet student. I think I was about 15 or 16 years old. And I remember I was performing this solo that was technically very difficult. There was one part that was very, very difficult. And, you know, rehearsing every day, multiple times a day, trying to do this one part of it and just not getting it, not being able to get through this one part all the way from beginning to end. And, you know, with ballet, it has to be perfect. And then my back went out a week before the performance. And I was like, shit, you know, how am I going to be able to perform? And I remember I have just such a visceral memory of it. I remember exactly the feeling. And I was lying in my bed. And what I would do every day is I would visualize doing that sequence. but not just visualize doing it. I visualize like, well, how do I have to twist my back and have my arm in this position, my leg in that position? And how do I'm not going to give you the technical terms because you won't understand it, but I would really visualize every little minute aspect of it. And I did that every day. And I think finally by day 4, it was like 3 days before the performance, something like this, I felt well enough to go back to the studio, and I rehearsed the piece, and I did it. I did it. There's countless studies of this, of, sports, like in various sports, them doing this, and they have control groups of like, the one that just practiced, the ones that didn't practice but visualized, and the ones that visualized and practiced. And always the ones that were most powerful were the ones with the groups with visualization. So there absolutely is, like, the data is there, right? There is no doubt, there's no question of the power of the mind. I mean, look at monks who meditate all the time. What they can do. They can sit in snow and in just like a sarong or whatever it's called, and be fine and be warm. So we underestimate the power of our mind. And this is why I talk a lot about beliefs, because our beliefs are really, really powerful. If we believe that something is not possible, it won't be possible. If we believe it is possible, it will be possible. So Joe Dispenza's work is very interesting, most especially when it comes to illness and disease, because that's kind of, his own story of having been in an accident and, really injuring his spine very badly and needing to have surgery, and him not wanting to have surgery, and him basically healing himself is really quite a remarkable story to read or listen to. So the greatest inhibitor, though, like when we are working with the mind, is our doubt. Our doubt that we believe like it's not going to happen, right? Like what we want or what we're, all of this stuff is like, it's, as I'm saying it, it's a tricky one, because I don't want to say, ooh, when you feel doubt, get scared, get scared, because if you're doubting, you're going to mess something up. That's kind of the whole law of attraction, story that I really, really don't believe in. But how do you be with it? How do you be with a doubt? So, what comes up for me actually is I was listening to this woman, Julie Ryan, I think is her name. And she has this kind of whatever practice, exercise, rule that she has practiced for ages now that is actually really, really helpful. Now, this is more when it comes to fear or anxiety, but I think doubt can be included in the bunch. And so when she's feeling something or thinking something, the question she will ask herself is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? And you can pretty much guarantee that the answer is no, it's not. Unless you're standing at the edge of a cliff and you're about to put your foot over the edge. Could that kill you in the next 2 minutes? Yes. But most everything else, no. The answer is going to be no. And so then she says, just you let go of it. You let go of it, because it's all a figment of your imagination, and you go into the fear and you go into the worry. So doubt is no different, because what happens with doubt is it comes maybe from a feeling, maybe it creeps up when we're feeling like I'm not seeing the results that I want to be seeing. I'm doing all of this work, I'm putting in all of this effort and energy, I'm visualizing, I'm feeling into, and it's not happening. And so then you go, well, it's not working. And then doubt comes in. Does this really work? Is this all bullshit? Am I just making this all up? Do you see how it goes into a story? Normally, the states of being, let's call it, that tend to be not real, meaning they're not of the present moment. They're always going to be attached to a story. They always go into some kind of narrative which, unfolds your future and, stirs up your emotions. So Joe Dispenza will actually talk a lot about that. It's like we need to get outside of the story of our past and elevate ourselves above the emotions that are pulling us into the past, into that past story that we're just reliving it. So I've mentioned in the last couple of episodes about the template. We take the template of our past, we bring it into the present, we feel into it, we believe the whole story, and that's what we project into the future. And so therefore we replicate it. So he has a lot of kind of meditations around elevating ourselves out of this story and kind of, I don't know, the word that comes to my mind, I'm not saying this is his word, but for me, sometimes I feel it's like we need to just be snapped out of it. We really need to be snapped out of it. So sometimes if I find myself going into like a way of thinking and I can see that I'm projecting into the future this story, I'll just shake my head. All of a sudden I'll catch myself and be like, oh no, like shake it out, shake it out. And it's not about dismissing or denying or spiritually bypassing, but it's also just recognizing, well, but that's just not real. So if it's not real, why give it my attention? Why give it my focus? So part of, I think, this journey and this work is learning how to be disciplined, learning how to, I don't like this word, but in a way, train the mind to not go into repetition, because he was saying most people's lives are just repetition. They're routine. You have your alarm clock at the same time. You have your coffee. You have your morning routine. You have this, and with that comes the same feelings and the same repetitions of just habit, right? And so we're learning sometimes to just snap ourselves out of that so we can make different choices and have different perspectives. So your mind, our mind, is incredibly powerful, but it requires awareness and it requires a certain sense of discipline and, again, for lack of a better term, training. So one of the things that I'm recognizing, I guess, in my own journey right now, which home seems to be the theme, it's been really lovely that I have these like 2.5 months to just settle into a place, but my mind is already having to think ahead for when in, a little over a month, I'm going to have to move again. I have to find another home and I haven't found it yet. There's a potential, but I'm not sure if it's going to follow through, if it's going to work out. And you can feel in those moments, I can feel in those moments how it would be really easy to go into the, well, shit, what if it doesn't happen? You go into the doubt, like, what if? And then the fear comes in and then the anxiety comes in because of the doubt of, well, if that doesn't work, I'm screwed. I'm going to be homeless. So there's the narrative. There's the story. There's the fear. And I have to remind myself, but Corinne, every time you've had really good luck with housing. The only thing I'm making clear to the universe is like, I don't want to be left until the 25th hour again. That was too much for my nerves. I can't handle it. So it's coming back to the profound trust of like, okay, if this, let's just say this apartment that I'm looking at for just 1 month because I need a transition. If that doesn't pan out, then I have to really fundamentally trust that something else out there is better. And I know a lot of people can go, oh, that's just that kind of spiritual new age bullshit that it's like everything is okay when actually you need to deal with life. And sometimes life is tough. Yeah, no, I'm not underestimating that. And yet it's coming back to like, but is it helpful? Is it helpful to think in that way? Is it helpful to get into the doubt and into the story and into the fear and into the worry and into the anxiety? Is that helpful? Is it useful? Has it ever made anything better? No, really it hasn't, right? So another thing that I want to throw into the mix is, so with this, I'm going to use the story of this apartment that I had seen actually a couple weeks ago, and I just felt like, no, it wasn't exactly right. Kind of everything around it didn't quite work, and it was going to be too far from where I wanted to send my daughter to camp, and just the driving and all of this, I just thought, no, I can't handle it. So I kind of eventually said no to it. And then after a week from that point, I kind of thought, well, shit, I'm not finding anything else. And maybe I'm just going to have to like pull up my bootstraps and drive a lot and be in traffic and just deal with it. But at least for my nervous system, I'll have a place to go to, and I can just relax for the next, 5 weeks. So I was kind of like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And I settled into a meditation, and I just asked. I had this really remarkable meditation, which maybe I'll share with you if it flows and ties into it well. So I'd connected to this part of me that I really trusted. I really, really trusted. And I kind of asked, okay, what do I do? What's the best thing that I can do in this moment? And I had the idea, the intuition of like, just go drive by the neighborhood again. And so I heard very clearly, go there, drive there, and if it's easeful, then you'll know it feels right. if you get frustrated, then you know that it's not right. And so I said, okay, fair enough. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm on my way and I'm driving, and at a certain point I can see like all the red lights, the back lights of the car were starting to go red, and I'm like, oh no, there's going to be traffic. And the traffic here is so bad that I was like, that is absolutely going to frustrate me. So I intuitively, even though I had my Apple Maps going, and I actually had Google Maps going on at the same time to see which one's going to tell me, I just went off. I got off the motorway. And both of them kept on wanting to redirect me to go back onto the motorway. And I'm like, yeah, but there's traffic. It's going to take me so much longer. I was like, I just was determined that I'm going to go on the side road. I'm going to stay on the road along the coast, and I'm going to just trust that it's going to take me there. Maybe at some point, I don't know, maybe I have to get back on the motorway, but I was like, no, I'm just going to continue to take the road that I feel is keeping me along the coast. And both of the maps kept on saying like, take a U-turn, or like, okay, go straight and then take the third exit and go, and I just was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to myself. And actually, it ended up being so easeful. It was a really lovely drive. I got to pass through different neighborhoods, lots of beautiful trees. It was green. There was no traffic whatsoever. I'm sure I got there so much faster. Went down a totally different road to get to this apartment, which was really lovely. Reminded me of this beautiful neighborhood that I used to really love when I lived in California. And I found parking right away, and it was totally easeful. So I just took that as a sign of like, okay, this feels right. I still have to see if I'm going to get the place for the month, because somebody else might be taking it long term. And I have to really profoundly trust. Like, and now I at least know, okay, it would feel right for me. I can do that. I can follow that. I can trust that. But if they're like, no, you know what, this person is going to come in on July 31st and take it long term. We're sorry, we can't give it to you. I have to really profoundly trust that see, what happens is doubt, and the limiting mind will go, oh, everything that you did didn't work. Doesn't work. See, look, there, it doesn't work. And it puts you into doubt, and it puts you into the belief system of like, well, this doesn't work. So what's the point? What's the point of visualizing? What's the point of manifesting? What's the point of doing this work and meditating? And because the thing is like we give up at the first hurdle, right? And actually it might not be a hurdle. It might be a very necessary redirect. If they say yes, I will be grateful for it. If they say no, yes, it will take a little bit more persistence and stamina, because it means I'll have to find something else, but I have to trust that what I will find is in greater alignment with me. And so it comes back to this, how is life happening for me, not to me, right? So I think doubt, when it comes in, it's like recognizing, okay, doubt probably comes from various things. It can come from fear. It can come from disappointment. It can come from sadness, right? It can come from the like, why isn't this happening for me? Again, I work with a lot of people that are single and want to be in relationship and it not coming into their lives yet. And where they go to is, well, none of this works. None of this works. What's the point of me doing all of this work? And then that makes them feel terrible. And then that creates your reality, right? That creates your day-to-day. And sometimes it's not that it's not working. It's just that we're kind of confined by time here in this realm. And that's just something that we have to deal with, which is very frustrating to the soul aspect of ourselves that can instantly manifest when we're not in this realm. It's very, very frustrating. But it is just a part of it. And so it does take a kind of discipline, a kind of like mental gymnastics to be like, right, I'm not going to let what I perceive to be as something not working bring me into doubt. Limit my capacity, limit my mind, create limiting beliefs, bring me into a place of hopelessness. And so then when the feelings come up, where maybe the feelings go, yeah, but I'm lonely. Or, yeah, but I'm scared. Or, yeah, but I'm anxious or overwhelmed, or whatever it is, that's the tending to, right? We don't spiritually bypass it. We also don't indulge it. We don't go into the story of it, but we feel the feeling and just really sit with it lovingly. And that's really it. I know it sounds really oversimplified, but that's really it. And then you come back to keeping your eye on the bullseye. Now, I want to bring in the element of kind of like magic and synchronicity. And I honestly can't remember because time is moving at such a weird speed. I don't remember if I told this story, but I don't think so because this happened on the solstice. So the morning of the solstice, actually, let me rewind a little bit. The night before the solstice, I was at the sea, and kind of there was very like moody weather. It was actually the Sirocco coming in, the red dust cloud that comes from the Sahara. And so the sky was this really amazing, like odd kind of clouds. And I really saw like an angel in the cloud. And I remember thinking, wow, it was such a beautiful kind of juxtaposition of light and dark, these kind of dark clouds, but then the sun kind of peering through in, almost like a hole in the black. And I don't know, it just felt so symbolic. It felt really beautiful. And so I kind of had this image of an angel, and I'd really been having the intention to kind of communicate with angels. The next morning, I had one of the most profound meditations I think I've ever had. Maybe not ever had, but the experience of it felt so real that it was really, that's what was so profound about it. So I'd done all of my morning, breathing exercises and certain meditations. And then I was just sitting in meditation after doing all of that. And I really felt like the angel sat within me. I really felt it. I felt like these heavy, big wings like sprouting from my back. And I tell you, I have never felt so grounded, so centered, so calm. I went beyond time, beyond the borders of my body. I felt like normally I've always had this kind, not always, but for a long, long time, I've had this kind of twitch in my right shoulder. And I've always found it very like my body is too small for my spirit. Like, I think that's why I kind of wiggle around in it. It's like, no, this house is too tiny. And I didn't feel any of that. I just felt so expansive. And what struck me was the weight, really the weight. It wasn't some airy, fairy, fluffy light, like, oh, I'm like a fluffy cloud. It was like, wow, I felt the weight and the power of these wings. And then I kind of saw myself standing up. And what struck me is I was like Amazonian height with these powerful legs and powerful arms. And I was like, yeah, this is who I know myself to be outside of this realm. And it was powerful. Like, it wasn't just like love and light and compassion. It was all of those things, but it was like a force to be reckoned with, extraordinarily powerful, both physically and energetically. So I really connected to that, and it felt really important. It was an amazing embodiment. 5 minutes later, when I came out of all of that and I checked my phone, I had a notification, my Telegram, of a group that I follow, Darius Wright, and he showed this image of like, this is what the New Age movement has done to us, and kind of the fallacy of the New Age movement that has really weakened us. And he kind of shows what the quote unquote light worker is meant to look like now, which was quite like frail and passive. And he's like, and this is what the original light warrior looked like. And it was like, much more detailed than what I had seen in my meditation, but it was like that, the big wings, the big strong legs and arms, and beautiful, like a woman. They had a male version and a female version. The woman was just like beautiful, powerful though. And I was like, wow, that was instant reflection. And I'm noticing that right now with the synchronicities, it's just instant. Like, it's amazing. I don't know if I'd shared this last week where I was at the sea and I was drawing the layout of the house that I want to manifest. And then that night I get on to my phone and social media, and this real estate agency comes up, and it has a listing of a house that I swear to God looked exactly like what I had drawn. I mean, it's amazing. So it's happening at rapid speed right now. So anyway, I got that confirmation. And then that night was the solstice, and I was watching the sunset with my daughter, and this young couple passed by. And I just have this inclination to like turn and to look, even though it was away from the sunset. And they had just been swimming, so he didn't have a top on. And on his back was a massive tattoo, not just a small tattoo, a massive tattoo of an angel standing with its wings outstretched. I just thought, okay, there we go. There was another reflection. another synchronicity. And I've seen it like a handful of times more. You could say, okay, well, now my awareness is I'm seeing it because I'm believing it, right? I've shared that many times, that it's not that I'll believe it when I see it. I'll see it when I believe it. And so now it's popping out to me all over the place. And it's like, okay, but I feel like this is the communication, right? This is the communication between the unseen and our realm, and how, actually we are always in communication, or they're always in communication. They're always around us, but we're just too busy, and we don't hear, we don't listen, we don't pay attention. And so I've definitely found that having my morning practice, where I literally sit up from waking up and I stay in my bed. I don't do anything else. I just sit up and I do it immediately. And feeling my kind of psychic abilities coming much stronger online. All it takes is that we just need to be quiet. We need to be still. And, doing breathing, doing certain meditation practices, we're coming back into our true nature and our true essence. And we're in such an age of distraction and noise. I recognize I've always been an HSP, so have very hypersensitive senses, like taste, smell, sound. But as I've been meditating a lot more, and as I feel like even just the frequencies are changing, I am so sensitive, like even more. It's actually kind of very hard. But I was really just noticing that, because where I'm living right now, there's like a kind of a bay below me, and it can be really loud because it's just where all the tourists come for summer holidays. And there's so much just noise. And I thought, how are people so disconnected from themselves, from nature, from their inner nature, that they can handle that level of noise as something normal? And not only that, but it's almost like they need it. I remember when I was in my 20s, I was in Lake Tahoe, and my boyfriend and I were staying at this house with this other couple. And the woman that was there had to have every television turned on in every single room. And I remember I would like come out into the living room. She'd be like in the kitchen with a television, and the television was like on another channel in the living room. And I was like, this is madness. I turned it off. Like, she's not in here. I turned it off. I go somewhere else. And then I come back in and she's turned it back on again. It was like she needed a constant stream of noise, because there's probably the anxiety when there's the silence. But the irony is that all that noise and distraction and stimulation causes anxiety, because it's overwhelming and overstimulating to our body, to our nervous system, to our senses. And so this is why I think everything that we're working on right now is like coming back home to ourselves and finding the comfort to be in ourselves without the noise, without the distraction. And it's very alluring and it's very addictive. They've made social media especially so it's totally addictive with dopamine and all of this stuff, right? And I think that the more we get pulled out of our center, the easier it is to go into places of doubt, to go into the narratives, to go into the fear and worry. And really what we're needing to do is come into a place of stillness, to really be in relationship with our mind, our heart, our gut. I mean, this is the coherence that Joe Dispenza talks a lot about, and that when we're in coherence of mind and heart, and I will add gut, that's when like miracles happen. Because that's when we're truly attuned and in alignment. But we've got to stop this habit of, yes, maybe sometimes it takes a long time to do this practice and to refine our skills. But just because we've met a hurdle or something isn't happening as fast as we'd like it to, or not in the way that we'd like it to we got to get out of this thinking of we've done something wrong. This isn't working, right? And then we want the quick fix or whatever it is. And I get that it's hard, especially when emotions come in. I get it. It's so easy to go, fuck this. None of this works. Bullshit. But actually, those are the moments where you just have to go, okay, that part of my mind doubts because it's afraid, or it's worried or it's sad or whatever. Okay, tend to the emotion and then come back to focusing on what you really actually know to be true. And all you can really focus on in those moments is the now, right? What is real now? What is true now? Get out of the story. Get out of the projection. And then, doing whatever practices bring you into a state that feels, like one of the things that was so beautiful watching this documentary is so many of them just spoke about how they would feel absolute bliss, absolute joy. And that is the power of meditation. I remember in my 20s when I did a couple week-long meditation retreats. By the end of it, you were just like on cloud nine, this feeling of just absolute love. And when these people that had this kind of miracle healing of cancer or of whatever ailment they had, what did they all see? Light. And they called that God. They called that source. And when I do theta healing, that's what I see. I see the light coming in. We are that. We're connected to source. We're a part of source. But we've been so conditioned to not believe in it. We've been so conditioned even by religion that it's like, no, you need to go to the church and to the priest and to the this and that and the other as the conduit, as the vehicle that's going to connect you to God or to source or to universe or creator, whatever you want to call it. No, we all have access because we all are it, right? So actually the biggest doubt that we need to release is actually the doubt of who we are, what this is, and what you call source, God, creation, universe. And sure, you could go, well, none of that exists. That's all a story. That's a nice story. But I want to share something that a client said, and I hope that I'm not stepping over kind of any privacy, but I wanted to share it because I thought it was such a beautiful question that this person asked themselves. They said, well, if there was no God, why is there something and not nothing? And I just thought that is so profound. Why is all of this here? If there was no source, God, creation, why is all of this here? You go Big Bang, blah, 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 blah. Why was there a Big Bang? If you even believe in the Big Bang, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, of course, it comes down to a choice, but I'm going to repeat what I said last week. How do you feel? How do you feel when you believe in nothing? And how do you feel when you see and notice the magic that is around you in nature, in children, in people, in the sunset, in the sunrise, in the breeze that kisses your skin? And when you start paying attention, it starts getting more and more and more obvious, as I shared last week. But doubt is the limiter. Fear is the limiter. It's okay, but how do you be with them? How do you not let them take the reins and take over? How do you go, okay, that is simply just doubt. That is fear. That is my conditioning. I'm unlearning and unwinding my conditioning. The mind is extraordinarily powerful. The heart is extraordinarily powerful. The two together, unstoppable. We're unstoppable. But don't give up because it's not happening yet. Time is a whole other thing, right? Keep going. Keep believing. Keep pulling yourself into the present moment. Feel when you feel lonely. Feel when you feel grateful. Feel when you feel sad. Feel when you feel joyful and blissful. It's all part of it. As you've heard me say a million times, it's all part of it. But allow yourself to open up into the magic and synchronicity that happens when you remain open and when you don't let doubt kind of, rain on your parade, so to speak. So the invitation this week is just to recognize, how does doubt play a part of your daily routine even? How does it feel when you recognize that doubt is there? Can you notice how that makes your body feel? What are the sensations? What are the emotions that come up with it? I always begin by get to know it. Really get to know it, because once you get to know it, you're building awareness so that you can catch it in the moment and then you can make a different choice. Recognize how doubt might even say, oh, your mind isn't very powerful. Maybe other people can do that, but I can't do that. Or that's too much work. I'm too lazy for that. Okay, well, that's a choice too. But notice how doubt can sabotage things. And don't vilify it, but work with it. Confront it for what it is. Don't give it too much power. See it for what it is, but recognize, oh, that's a conditioning. I can learn to unlearn that. And then can I come to a practice where I am connecting to what feels like source for me? And that's what I'm in conversation with every single day. And then you'll see what else comes out of that, right? For each person, it will come through in different ways. But you are creating your relationship, your unique relationship to source. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.